Hey guys, so today we have an analysis of the polling data that we've been getting from Wednesday the 10th of October 2018. So first we will be looking at, there's a lot of polls to get through: Arizona, Wisconsin, Ohio, Minnesota, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Wisconsin, Georgia, Arizona, Ohio, Minnesota, Rhode Island, Maryland, Connecticut, Pennsylvania 17, and then some national polls that I'll go over at the very, very end. So, looking at the Arizona Senate race, this is one that the Democrats think they can get a pickup in, and we're seeing some conflicting data because Sinema +3, +2, +3, +6, +3, +3, +6, and then McSally +6, just like that. Now, I do think this poll is probably an outlier because it's very unusual for it to swing 9 points just like that, and it is definitely a lot different to the rest of the polls. But if we get a few more polls that show McSally leading by this kind of amount, that would be a that would be something that the Democrats need to be concerned about. But I don't think they need to be concerned about it just now because I do believe this poll is an outlier. It's 47-44, 47-45, 45-42, 48-45, 45-39. Then all of a sudden, Sinema loses 6 points worth of voters, and McSally gains 3. You don't lose 6% of voters just like that. Now, I think this could be something to do with the poll, but if we do get a few more polls that show McSally leading, that would be something to cover. But I'm still going to keep it in the leaning Democratic column until we get some more polls. Now, in Wisconsin, we have a new Marquette poll that shows Tammy Baldwin leading by double digits. That's great news for her. I mean, that's something that is really good for Tammy Baldwin in Wisconsin. Republicans aren't really looking for Lee Vukmir to go on and win this one. It's not really important. I'm keeping the Wisconsin Senate race. Actually, I don't know why it's in the safe Democratic column. It actually should, all these Rust Belt states should be in the likely Democratic column. I don't know why that it was like that. Anyway, apart from that, we have the Ohio Senate race. Sherrod Brown now leads by 18 points. That's pretty much expected by now. If we get a few more leads with him leading 15 or more points, I would consider putting it in the safe Democratic column. So that's not really anything important. But in Minnesota, Tina Smith leads by 16 points. That's phenomenal. I mean, in a state that Clinton carried just barely. I think that Amy Klobuchar is driving out turnout for Tina Smith. She's up by 30 points in the brand new NBC News poll. That's great for both candidates in Minnesota. In Connecticut, Matthew Corey versus Chris Murphy. A new Quinnipiac poll has Murphy leading by 15. I think he probably should be leading by a bit more than 15, probably nearing 20, which means officially Ohio, with the Senate race, Ohio is a more Democratic state than Connecticut, which is pretty weird. But yeah, if we get a few more polls that only have it at 15, we might want to consider moving it into the likely to safe Democratic column. But in the Rhode Island Senate race, Sheldon Whitehouse versus Bob Flanders. New poll has Whitehouse leading by 24. That's great news. I'm keeping it in the safe Democratic column. But this is the one everyone's talking about, the Wisconsin governor race. The last time we had Scott Walker lead was back all the way back in June. And, I mean, this kind of polling firm does have a history of maybe giving the slight edge to Walker, and then Ty, Evers, and Walker. So, and whereas all the other polls have always showed Evers' lead. But anyway, this is pretty good news, I guess, for Scott Walker from where he was. However, one thing to note is that none of the candidates have reached 50%, and since Wisconsin is generally stereotyped to be a toss-up to the Democratic state, you might expect Tony Evers to hold on to this one. This poll could be an outlier, and for that reason, I'm keeping it in the tilt Democratic column until we get a few more confirming numbers that Walker is leading, then I would consider moving it. Anyway, next we have the Georgia governor race, Brian Kemp versus Stacey Abrams. Kemp is leading by 2 in both new polls, and that's pretty much expected. I mean, Republicans definitely could be doing better, but Stacey Abrams is a very strong candidate. I'm keeping it in the tilt Republican column. In Arizona, this is a race Democrats thought they had a chance. No, I do not believe they do. 17-point lead in a new Ohio Predictive Insights poll, 18-point lead in a Fox News poll, 12-point lead in a Suffolk poll. Oh, sorry about that. I did not mean to close that tab. I'm going to keep it in the likely Democratic column from where it was before. Now, in Ohio, Richard Cordray versus Mike DeWine. Many people say that Mike DeWine could be able to pull this one off because of a new tied poll, but now a new poll that has come out that shows the Democrat leading by 6 points. That's great in a state like Ohio. I also think that Sherrod Brown could be able to drive out turnout and push Richard Cordray over the finish line for this one. Now, in Minnesota, I believe I have that one in the tilt. Yeah, okay. Minnesota governor race, Jeff Johnson versus Tim Walz. This is looking great for the Democrats here. Tim Walz is over the finish line. I also think that, again, Tina Smith and Amy Klobuchar can drive out turnout in this one. So this is one that the Democrats think they have in the bag. In Rhode Island, the governor race, Alan Fung versus Gina Raimondo, the unpopular incumbent. Raimondo is leading by 14 points in a new UNH poll, and that's pretty good news considering that she's not at 50%, but since this is stereotyped to be a Democratic state, many of these are Democratic voters, and they'll probably come back to the Democratic Party at the end of the day. Next, we have the Maryland governor race, Larry Hogan versus Ben Jealous. A new Washington Post poll has Larry Hogan up 20 points. That's phenomenal for a Republican in Maryland. I'm keeping it in the likely Republican column. About a month ago, I put it in the leaning Republican column, but I'm going to put it in the likely Republican column now that we have a lot of leads for Hogan. In Connecticut, Bob Stefanowski versus Ned Lamont. Lamont leads in a brand new Quinnipiac poll. That's good news for him. I'm keeping it in the leaning Democratic column. In Pennsylvania 17, if you remember Connor Lamb, he was the one who upset the Republican a while ago, and it is a leaning Democratic seat. He's looking great to go on and win his re-election, 54 to 42. We go into Pennsylvania 17. Pennsylvania, I believe. I'm not sure what I have this. So, yeah, I put this in the Democratic column, and yeah, that's something to note. Now we're going to look at the national polls. So, Trump job approval by The Economist, YouGov, Reuters, and then 2 Rasmussen reports, and then Reuters, The Economist. I'm just going to briefly go through all these because they're not as important as the statewide polls, and then a few direction of the countries. So here we go. So first up, we have Trump job approval by The Economist, underwater by 10 points. That's not good at all. I mean, he was gaining a bit of ground up to 44 during the whole Kavanaugh confirmation, but now he's back down to a 43% approval rating, and it's pretty much stabilized almost the entire year. Almost all this year, I mean, all through the summer, is pretty much at 43 now. Next, we have the Rasmussen Reports poll. It's a tie. I mean, that's pretty much expected from Rasmussen. Again, not really that important. Trump job approval by Reuters, underwater by 15 points. That's probably not as good for the president as he probably should be doing. Underwater by 15% is not good going into the midterms. Looking at the 2018 congressional generic vote, The Economist puts the Democrats up 6. That's pretty much consistent. They have fallen a little bit with this whole Kavanaugh confirmation, but they're looking over to just push them over the finish line now. In the generic congressional vote from Reuters, Democrats up 12. That's pretty good for them. I mean, you know, not really that important. The congressional job approval, underwater by 52, underwater by 49, not really taken into much, and then direction of the country, wrong track, pretty much. Underwater by 16 in The Economist, and then underwater by 21 in Reuters. So, thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll probably come out with a house analysis forecasting just in about 1 hour, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.